Hi, welcome back to Happily in the Middle. My name's Krista. I'm a 6th grade language arts teacher and a 5th grade Read 180 teacher, and I love teaching middle school. So today I'm going to share with you some of my favorite teaching books that I have found throughout the years. Some of these are books that I really wish I had had before my really terrible first year of teaching, but some of them are books that I just kind of found along the way that have really improved the quality of my teaching and have helped me grow as an educator over time. I think that going into summer, this is a really great time to start thinking about how are you going to improve yourself as an educator. And so some of this might look like professional development seminars, maybe going online and taking an online class, or like me, if you like to read, I love diving into a really good book about education. And so I'm going to share with you some of these favorite books. So I want to start today by sharing my favorite book that I've probably ever read, and this book is The Tribes, Discovering Gifts in Middle School. There's kind of a close-up of this book. This book has a lot of tabs, and actually I think it's broken because I have used it. It's like the binding is busted because I use this book so much. And the thing that I love about Tribes is that it's all centered around building a really strong classroom community, and it really outlines how to do that, but it also helps you understand the philosophy and the importance of building inclusion and community in the middle school classroom. And the whole back section of the book, I'll just show you here. It starts right at the end. Here we go. The whole back section of the book is right where my book is broken, is just filled with these activities. It's just filled with these activities that you can use in the classroom to build community. And so a lot of times if I have a problem with my students, like students are being rude or they're using put downs or they're ignoring each other or me, I look into my community building book in Tribes and I look for activities that I can use to really fix the problems in my classroom community. And so I think Tribes really changed my teaching philosophy. It helped me understand that a lot of the times when students are misbehaving, it's because there's something wrong in the community of the classroom, and maybe they don't feel a sense of inclusion or belonging in the classroom, and so they act out, causing disruptions in the class. And so for me, when I see that my class is beginning to get out of control or I feel frustrated at the end of the day, I know the last thing that I want to do is reward my students with fun activities. But I know that with Tribes, the purpose of all of these activities is to build that inclusion and to build that community amongst students. And so I'll pull out these Tribes activities and we will do the fun, engaging activities, but we debrief these activities and we share positives and we share appreciations to other people in the class, and we really build each other up. And it's amazing the impact that these activities have on a classroom. And so Tribes is really like a whole year philosophy, and it's so worth it to read it and invest your time in getting to understand the power of community in middle school. I think that this will probably be the first year, this beginning next year, where I'm going to start with my students in the tribes of 3, which is what Tribes recommends. Typically, I've done 4 in the past, but my district got these new desks. You can kind of see in the background, but my district got these new desks where they actually are kind of rounded when they are put together. And so I think that they'll be really good for groups of 3 next year. Now, the next book that I want to share with you is a really good book for first-year teachers. I wish I had the survival guide my first year of teaching. I think my husband bought this for me my second year of teaching. This is a really good book because it's basically like a survival guide to help you get through those day-to-day moments and weeks and months that you have as a first-year teacher. And so it's just whatever kind of problem you have as a new teacher, you can find some answers in here. So this one is like, how do I deal with students who are absent and missed work? And so it's some basic suggestions and ideas. If you are looking for how do you teach your students test taking skills and strategies, you'll find something in there as well. They have just really good ideas for how to help you be organized, how to set up your classroom, what procedures to teach. There's really great ideas in there in how to facilitate group learning, how to manage calling home, how to talk to other peers, how to collaborate. It's got everything you need as a first-year teacher to help you survive, because as a new teacher, in a lot of ways, you're on your own, because you don't have the excuse of, oh, well, I'm just in a credential program. If I make a mistake, oh, well, I'm just a student. You're the real deal now. And so you really need as much support as you can get. And so if you get a teacher coach next year, that is just going to be phenomenal for you. But I think having a resource that you can go to and just quickly check, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I think I'll do that. This is a really good book for that, to just help you survive, because your first year of teaching, it's really just about surviving, getting to the next day. So the next book that I'm going to share with you is another really great book called 50 Strategies for Active Teaching, and these are good ranging K-12 learners in the classroom. This is a super neat book because it's full of activities that you can use and integrate in your class and integrate into your curriculum to engage your students. I know one of the activities that I have bookmarked in here is the Give One, Get One strategy. It's really explicit and really clear. It actually explains to you how you could support an English language learner through these activities as well. It explains to you, if you can see right here, the language demands and the literacy demands as well, so that you can fully understand what you're asking your students to do. But they're just engaging fun activities. So if you've ever done a snowball activity or you've never done a snowball activity, the directions are in here. It's just a great little toolkit to have to whip out when you feel like, I don't know what to do. My students are feeling bored in the classroom, but integrate these activities into your curriculum, and so that way you're still able to move through your curriculum guide and you're still able to cover what you need to cover, but you can give little breaks of fun, engaging activities for your students. But you can also use these as formative assessments to determine, where do you need to go next in your lesson, and what are my students understanding, and how do I need to change my lesson to support them further. Another book that I want to share with you today is called Shakespeare Set Free. So if you're like me and the first time you ended up in the high school classroom was the very first time you ever taught Shakespeare, because I student taught in social studies. So I actually never had to teach Shakespeare before. So the very first time I ever taught it, I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. I had read Shakespeare in college, but it had been years and years, and plus we were all college students, so what the professor demanded of us was different than what the state standards demand of our students. And so I love Shakespeare Set Free. It is so much fun, and it's a really engaging curriculum to get students out of their seat, engaging and acting and directing the play themselves. So instead of just sitting in rows and reading the play, students are actually putting on a production of the play. They're learning about stage directions by becoming the director and deciding where characters should stand on the stage, why they should stand there, and they have to base all of their decisions off of what they discover in the text. And so this curriculum is really laid out and clear, so it gives you the number of lesson, and it gives you as a teacher really clear directions. It breaks it down into what you do first, what you do second, third, and underneath each of those, it has like a paragraph that explains how you go about and approach that activity that they're suggesting. And at the beginning of each of the units, because this book comes with 3 plays, this one is Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. So this would be good for like a 9th and a 10th grade teacher. It has an overview of the whole unit, and so it gives you some ideas of what you are going to be teaching throughout that unit, and then that way you know where to go. But it also tells you what you're going to read in the text. And so for me, being a new teacher teaching Shakespeare, I didn't even know how much to assign to my students for reading each night in the unit, because it's a challenging text and you don't want to give them too much to do in one time, because then they'll shut down and they won't engage and they don't want to participate in the activities. But a lot of my 9th grade students said that the Shakespeare Set Free unit was their favorite unit of the entire school year. Part of it was because it was my first year teaching ninth grade, but also that this unit is really organized and it's really explicit, and it hits a lot of those really strong drama standards, but also critical thinking and critical analysis standards that the students need to do. It doesn't have in there specific writing assignments, like it doesn't have specific essays or essay topics that the kids are going to write. I think that you really need to add to it more in-depth analytical writing for students. But to teach the basics of plays and playwriting and how directors make decisions about plays, this is a really great resource. Shakespeare Set free, you need this. Now, have you ever been interested in Writer's Workshop? I had for a couple of years been throwing around this idea of Writer's Workshop in the middle school classroom. I'd heard about it from other people, but for a long time, I really thought Writer's Workshop was only something that was done in the elementary classroom. I don't know where this idea came from, but that's just what I thought. And so I started researching Writing Workshop in the middle school classroom, and I found this book called In the Middle by Nancie Atwell, who's like my teacher hero. I read this book cover to cover, and I promise you it's worth every moment of reading time here. Anything you've ever wanted to know about teaching Writing Workshop in the middle school classroom is in here. She actually ended up creating her own school where a lot of these strategies and approaches to teaching writing were implemented. I think it is important, though, to add that in her school where she's found a lot of success, the whole school was created around the idea of her writing workshop. And so a lot of the success she finds, I think, comes from that her school was set up to do this. Plus, there's like a lottery, I think, to get into her school, and parents, they're like really heavily involved in the school as well. But I have used these tools and strategies in my classroom, and it has changed my classroom and changed the way I teach writing, which is huge. It's changed the way I respond and give feedback in writing. It's changed the way that I conference with my writers. The way I model writing with students, the way that I celebrate writing with students has been changed. But I think most importantly, the way that I give students examples of writing has really changed, because one thing I learned from this book is that we really need to show our students a lot of great examples of writing, and to build our writing community where students trust and support each other, we really want them to see each other as writers. And so I share constantly excellent writing from my class. But all my students know that when I share examples of poor writing, I will never pull from them. I want my students to feel safe and secure in the writing classroom, and I want them to be willing to try new skills and strategies and to take a risk as a writer. And if they know at any time that their writing could end up on the board and I could say the words bad or not good or not strong next to it, I don't believe that they're going to take as many risks as they would. And so anytime I share poor writing in the class in order to teach a lesson, I write that model myself, because I want my students to feel safe and I want them to take those risks to try something new. And I will tell you that I have seen kids try things that I never even taught them because they felt safe enough to do that. And it's amazing to see some of my sixth graders writing better than my ninth graders in a private school ever wrote. And that's because they feel so strong and supported and they're willing to take risks. Nancie Atwell really inspired me. And what I like about this book is that after you read this book, you'll find that there are two really great resources available to you. This one is called Lessons That Change Writers. And in here, you're going to find lessons for an entire school year on Writing Workshop. And it comes with a CD, so you can print out the materials, but it goes through the different parts of writing throughout the year, and it gives you ideas and ways to order your lessons that you're using to teach writing. So this is a really great resource for someone who's just starting out in teaching writing and you're not really sure where to go with it. The other resource I love from Nancie Atwell is called Naming the World, A Year of Poems and Lessons. This changed the way my students analyze literature last year. It was incredible. So in Naming the World, the kids have lessons where they get poems. And each day you read a poem with your class. And then there's a lesson for the teacher to support you of things to point out or not to point out to your students, or even things to point out to older or younger students as you teach them. And what I love about this is that it teaches them and it takes them from the very first steps of learning to just observe in poetry. So let's read this poem. What do you notice about it? And beyond the basics of the topic, I want my students to notice there's a period or a comma or there's an em dash. I want my students to notice that there's stanzas. And so you support them in just noticing what they see. And then over time, over a week or two, they're going to notice those periods and commas and dashes and the stanzas, but they're going to start looking beyond that, and they're going to start seeing figurative language. They're going to start seeing metaphors and similes and hyperboles. And then you get to open your discussion once the kids have learned to see those things. You can open the discussion as they progress into analyzing. Now, what do you think that means when they use that simile? What do you think she's trying to say with that stanza? Or now that we have all the basic ideas of each stanza pulled out, what do you think the overall message of the poem is? And so I didn't really trust in this curriculum when I started it, but if you could see my students starting the unit and then ending the unit, you would not have believed how much they grew and how much they were able to analyze poetry. And what's really great about this is the lessons are designed to be like your first 10 minutes of class. And like I said, it just builds really slowly. We're going to begin by just noticing what we see in the poem. And then over time, as they're able to notice, then you just start walking them into analysis. And so I did this with my 7th grade class. It was really successful. However, there are some poems in here that are not super appropriate. So don't just photocopy your poems and hand them out to kids, because you might find yourself in a heap of trouble with a topic that's just not a good fit for your particular kids in the classroom. Those are really rare, but we always have to think about the needs of our kids and our community. So those are all my favorite books that I wanted to share with you now. I have a huge stack of favorite books, and I could share all kinds of stuff. I can do another video on it. But what are some of your favorite books that you have used for teaching, and what books would you recommend that maybe I haven't read yet? Because I'm still looking for books that I'm going to be reading this summer. Thank you for joining me at Happily in the Middle. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you like what you see and you want to keep updated with my further videos.